Welcome back to Crimson Cast. I'm Grace Ybarra. That is Galen Clavio. Galen, I would ask you how things are going in Bloomington, but I feel like I already know the answer.
It's been a week, Grace. It's been a week.
We're only like halfway through the week too.
This is the living embodiment of the lemon it's Wednesday gif right now.
Yes.
But we're gonna make it. It's fine.
Okay.
We've got each other. We've got the support of the people around us. What else could we ask for at this point, right?
Yeah, we're all in this together, as they said in High School Musical. And we need that in trying times.
Never seen High School Musical, actually.
Ray, are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
I guess you didn't have kids at that point, that era.
Right. Well, I'm sure that they've watched it. I just have not. It's never been on my radar. Like, I'm aware of it.
It's never been on my radar.
It's never been on my radar of something where it's like, Galen, what you really need to do is sit down and watch High School Musical. It hasn't that hasn't happened yet.
Speaking of, someone actually recently asked me at work, which you'd have to know High School Musical to know the plot point of this. But like the main character is Troy Bolton, who like basketball player, maybe going to go to college to play basketball.
Uh-huh.
And funny enough, someone was asking me like how realistic it was that he would make it to the NBA draft. And I was like, not at all. Like he was not, Zac Efron was not going to the NBA draft, but I forgot that he had an offer to play at Cal Berkeley. And I was like, why is he like kind of giving Fernando Mendoza in like basketball form?
Yeah. That's interesting. I'm surprised nobody has put together like a TikTok edit.
Yeah.
Where we combine that plot point and Fernando Mendoza.
So that's my contributions to the world today, is that Fernando could have been like High School Musical 4 football edition.
I don't know. It's funny because I was in High School Musicals like as a high schooler. I had singing roles and things like that at times.
I did not know this.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's video on YouTube that I am now very pleased you have not found yet.
Good.
Of me not starring, but I was in like the Will Rogers Follies, and I was in Anything Goes, and but anyway, I could see Fernando Mendoza having like a whole secret like second life in musical theater. It does not seem far off at all.
So maybe that's something we could put in the works. We're putting that out into the universe now. You should watch it though.
Okay.
No, you really shouldn't. Like, you don't need to waste your time with it.
It's kind of like our friend Trisha Whitaker was down in Florida last week, and she said, "Oh, I'm going with my cousins to Harry Potter World at Universal."
You've never seen Harry Potter?
I've never seen any of the
Galen.
I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
I know that's probably a more grievous violation of cultural laws. You're a Harry Potter person, though, right?
I am. Oh my gosh. When I was younger, I won like Hermione. What was a Harry Potter lookalike contest? And I dressed up as Hermione, and I won the seventh book. Like, I got a free copy of it. That was back when people were excited about like book releases. Right. And then I remember my dad took it and he read it all that night, and I was like, okay.
You got it back eventually, though, right?
I did get it back. But I was like, I put in the hard work to win this book, and then you just took it and read it overnight.
Actually, it's a great lesson for getting a career in media, right?
Yeah.
You do all the work and someone else gets the rewards first. So
yeah, it was disappointing, but I was a big Harry Potter kid. My mom would like photocopy pages of the books for me to read in first grade and like take them into my reading time instead of reading. Like, I would be like over whatever we were reading in English class, and she would be like, okay, you can go, like, I'll copy out a couple pages of Harry Potter. So yeah, I was that kid.
That's awesome. I've never seen any of them, haven't read any of the books. Big holes in my cultural resume.
That would be like, I would tell you to do it, but I feel like the ship has sailed.
Maybe it's never too late, I would say.
No, but you'd have to dedicate like an amount of time to it.
Well, I might have some time off this fall, so maybe I could add that to the mix.
And truthfully, like, you don't need to read the books. A movie like marathon could be enough for you.
Okay. Well, next cross-country flight that I'm on, maybe I can
start.
Just get a couple of them crossed off. I could do like a mini review, like 15, 20 years after the fact.
And then as your reward, me and Trisha will take you to Harry Potter World.
I mean, that I'm going to start tomorrow then. I mean, what better incentive could
I've signed her up for this.
That's amazing. That's great. Well, when we go to Harry Potter World, we will, of course, be wearing Homefield apparel.
Obviously.
There's no Harry Potter line at Homefield yet.
Not yet.
But I wouldn't be shocked if they added something to the mix. And when they do, you will be able to use the code HOME23 and get 15% off your first order. Homefield mostly specializes, we know, in collegiate apparel. They are the place to go for collegiate apparel. And, of course, they've got tremendous lineups of things, IU-related, not IU-related, including this is really, I think, my favorite shirt from the whole drop, the Never Daunted.
Beautiful.
It's just great. And normally I'm not a big black T-shirt with IU guy. You know, outside of the oval, I feel like it kind of drifts out of what we would normally want, but they did a bang-up job with this, and it pairs nicely with the white blazer. Or the white bomber, not a blazer. But we do need Homefield to make blazers at some point, right?
Yeah, well, that's gonna be a problem because then people are gonna start showing up to weddings in like Homefield blazers.
You call that a problem? I call that a fashion trend I'd like to get in on.
Then we have like TV reporters wearing them,
right? Like the Ron Burgundy style blazer, but Homefield makes it. I love it. I mean, it seems like the next evolution. I'll talk to Connor about this weekend. It'll be great. But head to Homefield Apparel. I love it. I'm getting that. Yes, that's nice, Galen.
Okay, move on.
If verbal exclamations could be head taps, Grace just gave me 3 of them in like a 5-second period there. That's tremendous. So, but anyway, yes, go to homefieldapparel.com, check them out on Instagram, and we got some cool stuff coming up with Little 5 and Homefield Apparel. I can't say a whole lot more yet, but you're going to want to watch this space, as they say. Also, we are brought to you by Posh Hotel Bloomington, the place to go for the finest and luxury accommodations in town, at the corner of Kirkwood and Washington. Great views of downtown, great views of campus. They've just opened up some dates for football weekends, which are in desperate demand given that everybody's coming to Bloomington. And we'll talk about why everybody's coming to Bloomington a little later on. But you're going to want to get accommodations at Posh Hotel. So head over to poshhotelbloomington.com or check them out. Instagram.com/Posh on Kirkwood. I guess nobody really uses Instagram.com. Just go to the app. Instagram, just search Posh on Kirkwood. You'll find it there.
That's good. That's a good adjustment there for you to make.
On the fly, just like trying to land the plane.
Well, we have to talk about it. Yeah. Indiana, Northwestern. I think we all need therapy after that game. I can't afford everybody's therapy, so we're just going to talk about it, and I hope that this helps people out there.
You need like a group therapy rate providing through this podcast.
Right.
I've been needing this since the game ended yesterday, so I'm looking forward to this.
Look, I don't know how much I can actually help, but this is 3 straight games of pathetic effort.
So this is where I keep going back and forth because I think it's tough in the athletic space, and you and I deal with this in the other things that we cover, where when you say bad effort, pathetic effort, everybody feels indicted on the team. And sometimes you've got guys that are trying hard and aren't capable. Sometimes you got guys trying hard who are. Sometimes you've got guys who are not. It's tough to make a blanket statement about that. But the problem in team sports is that at some point you got to point the finger at effort. And it does feel, and you and I talked about this after the Illinois game, about how it felt like the effort just kind of disappeared after the first 5 to 10 minutes of that game. And then we had talked prior to the Purdue game last week about how Indiana could not afford to give that kind of effort against a Purdue team that has as good, if not slightly better, of an offense than Illinois has. And sure enough, they go out and they lose by the largest margin that Indiana has lost in the Indiana-Purdue series since...
I don't think I knew that.
Since prior to the moon landing occurring.
So awesome. That was 56, 57 years ago?
57 years ago. 1969. Spring of 1969. And that's really not something you want to bring up. And I was honestly surprised. Because there have been games... I remember famously there was a game in, I think it was Calbert Cheney's junior year, when Indiana beat Purdue by 50 points, which is bigger than the 29 Indiana lost by in this one. There was a game I went to at Mackey in I think it was 2013 when Indiana won by like 35. And so Indiana's blown Purdue out by pretty wide margins. But one of the things about Indiana that's been good in that series has been they haven't gotten blown out like that. And in this game, they did. And it was another game where it was clear Purdue was the better team, and it was clear that Indiana was probably going to lose the game, but they were playing fine until they stopped playing fine. And it's like they kind of folded up tents at the wrong time. It got away from them. They ended up losing by 29 points. And so coming into this game, I stopped using must win.
Yeah, we've overused that one a bit because they keep finding ways.
Well, and I tried this out on Scott. He liked it. So I want to get your, I've been calling them non-negotiable games. So they're not must wins.
That sounds like something with your kid. Like, this is a non-negotiable. Like, you need to put away your laundry.
Right. It's like a student that's particularly like not doing a great job. It's like getting a good grade on this is non-negotiable. Like there's no wiggle room. And this was a non-negotiable game for Indiana.
I like it.
So, thank you. Let's workshop it a little bit. Maybe try it on air in St. Louis. See how people feel about it. Cardinals lose 2. It's like they go to the rubber match. It's like, well, this is a non-negotiable game.
I don't know if we can use non-negotiable in St. Louis this season.
It's a fair point.
I think people are asking if they're going to win 50 games.
Okay.
Things are bad.
Bad market to do this in this year. But
yeah. Colts. Well, the Colts probably have some non-negotiables on their schedule.
The way the Colts have played the last few years, I'm not sure if anything is non-negotiable, except Chris Ballard's contract, clearly. But that's another podcast.
My gosh.
But anyway, the point, more to the point, is that the Northwestern game was a game Indiana really had to win.
Yes.
Not just because of the tournament implications, of which there were many, which we will talk about a little later. But man, you've really let your audience down. You've let your fans down in 2 straight games when you could have proven, like, yes, what you saw in that stretch when Indiana won 5 of 6 was not a fluke. They've turned it the right direction. You've got the opportunity to, at the very least, come back in front of people that are coming and paying money as season ticket holders, and you can put yourself in a position where you put that behind you and everything will be fine. And they did not do that. In fact, they did exactly the opposite. They got off to a good start. They kind of piddled away the good start at the end of the first half. Northwestern closes the gap at the beginning of the second half, and then they go cold as ice from the field, never adjust, and then a bizarre sequence occurs at the end of the game, which you can kind of get mad at in the short term, but the reality is you lost to Northwestern in a game you had no business losing.
Right, and Lamar Wilkerson put it best post-game. He was like, yeah, we can sit here and say that he missed that call, but you should not be in a position where you were up 13 at an earlier point in that game, and you put Kelly Pfeiffer in that position to make that call. Yes, I'm going to start referring to him by name.
Good. I'm glad somebody's holding the officials to account.
Since I've brought it up, you were there. Yeah. What did you see? I'll talk about what I saw on the broadcast. Let's talk about the not call.
The not call. I like that. So I'll be honest, like I was pretty bummed at the fact that they were down 3 and they had this, there was kind of a weird play set up. So when DeVries goes up, where my seat angle was, it wasn't immediately apparent that he had gotten fouled because, as you pointed out to me, and it was clear in real time, like he does this weird hitch, DeVries does, as he's going up. And so in that movement, it was hard to tell exactly what was happening. But DeVries immediately, Tucker DeVries, that is, well, so did Darren, actually. Both of them immediately flip out. And so I'm like, well, something must have happened there. And then the in-stadium replay, which wasn't the greatest of angle in that moment, I was like, oh, yeah, that was a foul. And then I got home and looked at it, and it's like, wow. Like, how do you stand whatever it was, 4 feet, 5 feet behind?
But he said he didn't see it.
Right. And how do you say you don't see that? I have no idea. But it was a shame because if he gets fouled, he probably, I think he hits the 3 free throws in that spot. And even if he doesn't, you've at least got a chance at hitting 2 and getting a rebound or something like that. As Lamar said, it shouldn't have come down to that. But I've always been one of those people who's been like, well, we can criticize Indiana for their poor play, but we also need to acknowledge that there was a really egregious missed call at the end. And it was one of many. The previous possession, Tatum Connerway goes to lay the ball up.
Wasn't that an and? It should have been an and one, right?
Should have been an and one. Didn't get the foul call, and it's like what is going on? And when you factor in that, I think Northwestern's first foul call against them happened at like the 8-minute mark of the second half. In the second half, obviously they had fouls called on them in the first half, but they didn't get a foul called on them for basically 12 minutes in the first half. And then they got like 3 fouls called on them in the same possession. It just felt like the officials never had a clear grasp on what they were supposed to be calling in the game. So it was bad, but again, it's like you can't put yourself in the position if you're Indiana where that becomes the factor that decides whether or not you win, because you've essentially, you had the game, you let the game go, and I hate to say that you just kind of have to accept the results, but that was essentially what DeVries landed on in the post-game press conference, where it's like, well, that's part of the game, and sadly, that's true.
Yeah, I saw exactly what you said on the broadcast, where if you do go back, you notice Tucker goes to shoot it, and then he hitches back like really weirdly after he gets hit, and I like wish he would have just like shot it. Instead of
he did,
but like then he hitched and then he just like did, I don't know, he like double clutched it a little. And I kind of wish he would have just gone through with like the shooting motion to begin with, because he would have put up a better shot than what he ended up doing. But obviously he was reacting to the foul, so that's why it happened. But that was like a god awful shot. That ended up going up and it sucked. And I think everybody at home in Assembly Hall was waiting for a whistle there, and it never came.
I sent you a picture. Ignore the red circle for those of you watching, but you can see like 44 for Northwestern. Like he's basically grabbed DeVries's forearm there.
Yes.
And there's another angle that Bobby Godden, one of the photographers, shot from a different angle where it's like it's clear, like it'd be like that, but it's like I still don't know how to. It's not even seeing it. Like, how do you not hear that? Because that's some absolute skin on skin contact. It was a bizarre no call, and you can always tell when an official knows they've blown it. When a coach comes out onto the floor screaming at that official and is well outside the coaching box and nobody calls a technical foul. Where it's like, well, I blew that call and I can't do anything about it, but we're not going to tee the coach up because we're going to make it worse. So I think that's the verification that we needed, that there was clearly a missed call, and it sucks. And look, Indiana's been on the positive sides of some of those things, so I'm not going to sit here and cry about it, but it's frustrating that, in that moment with officials in the positions where they should be, can't make the call. But it's also been something we've seen across the Big Ten for many years. It's not something that's just unique to this year.
Yeah, it's not new, but I guess going off of that, going back to what Lamar said, we need to look at the fact that Indiana shot 8 for 26. In the second half, I don't know if you looked at the lead time, but Indiana led for 34 minutes and 39 seconds.
I have something for you.
Oh gosh, what?
I have a graph.
I don't.
So this is the win expectancy graph.
No, those are so painful.
That Ken Palm puts out. And this is what it looks like. So the way that this works is the win expectancy for Indiana is on the bottom. And you'll notice that it is solidly in the 85 to 90% range for most of the game, all the way up to about the 7-minute mark. Then it jumps up, and then it's only at about 75%. Still good. Northwestern goes on a 13-2 run. There's those runs that I keep talking about, Grace. It happens again.
They had 2 8-0 runs.
Yeah. And you can see the win percentage spikes all the way up in the Northwestern territory. This is not the heart attack EKG.
I was going to say it looks like an EKG.
It does. But this one, like the patient, we had some advance notice that they were on their deathbed. They didn't die immediately like we get into those. You're right. But it's an illustration, and you look at the way that the game went. I mean, at halftime, it was 42-33. And even as late as it was 56-48 with 9 minutes and 40 seconds. So this was a game that Indiana, even as badly as they played offensively in the second half, still had time. But let me call this up. So it's hard to see on this, but the numbers on the bottom part of the central line are when Indiana scores baskets. So they score a basket coming right out of halftime, and that's 44. It then takes them until about the 16-and-a-half minute mark, and they hit a 3. then it like from there until the 11-minute mark, they only scored 2 baskets. And again, they have a stretch where they score right at the 8-minute mark. They get to 59. From there until about a minute and 20 seconds, they only score 1 basket. And all of those little green X's are missed shots. Their offense just disappeared. Like it's on milk cartons at the convenient mart across the street right now. Like, yes, please help us find the Indiana offense. Lamar Wilkerson started off and had 14 points, I think, in the first 10 minutes of the game. And then didn't score again, I don't think, from the field the rest of the game. Had a couple of free throws at the end.
May have been people's fault for getting excited thinking it was going to have another big game.
I'm not going to blame anybody in particular, but yeah, there were many people who were like, "Hey, this is something that," because it kind of initially it was like, "Oh, Indiana's going to win by a lot. They're up by 10. Lamar's going off. He's hitting threes." Indiana was 8 for 12 from 3 at one point in this game. I think at the end of the first half they were 8 for 12, and they finished, was it 10 for 28 from 3 in this game? Yeah, 10 for 28. So to go from 8 for 12, which is pretty good statistically.
Yeah, I can't do that quick math off the top of my head, but that's very good.
That's where, that's why they pay me that. That was the extra degree that allowed me to calculate that in my head. I'm kidding. But yeah, I mean, 13 for 22 from the field for the game, and or from 2, and 10 for 28 from 3. And we've seen this before. When Indiana's offense disappears, they don't have a second option. When Lamar can't hit and when Tucker's not hitting, they don't have another person to go to. And, Sam Alexis, to his credit, played pretty well. Tatum Connerway, again, had a really good offensive game. But when they needed that offense, those guys either weren't in or they weren't getting the ball at times when they would score. And you add to that Indiana's complete inability to grab any offensive rebounds. And so when they would get shot off, Northwestern, I just want to just walk you through.
I think I looked at the points off of second chance and it was ugly.
Indiana had one second chance point.
That's just a free throw that you split?
It was the Sam Alexis free throw at the end of the game.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you're right.
There was that was the only one. But Northwestern went out there and rolled with a lineup of guys that were 5'10", 6'3", 6'7", 6'8", 6'9". This is not a physically opposing lineup. You're not playing Michigan. You're not playing Purdue. And physically, Northwestern's players looked like they were like late to whatever polo match they were going to play in next. Like this is not a group of physically imposed. I don't even know if there are polo matches. I'm not sure how polo is set up.
I don't know either.
Let's get the research team on that. But this was not a physically imposing group. And yet, and I think I saw Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier had a stupefying stat that he retweeted, or they tweeted earlier. I tweeted it out. Northwestern allowed a 39.3% or higher offensive rebounding rate in 6 straight games coming into last night. And Indiana only grabbed basically 18% of available offensive rebounds. It's like they weren't even looking for them.
How does that happen?
Well, and I think this feeds into I'm done flogging, this particular game statistic. Like, what else are we going to say? It was
there's nothing left.
But this is, I think, a big problem with IU is that when they are engaged, as they were against Purdue, as they were for decent stretches the first time, not the Purdue game that we just saw on Friday of last week, but with the first game against Purdue, when they are engaged emotionally and mentally like they were against Wisconsin, like they were at, for stretches of the UCLA game on the road, they do a pretty good job of playing with some level of physicality. They haven't been great offensive rebounding wise, but like against Wisconsin, they grabbed 32% of offensive rebounds. And yet in this game, they looked completely disassociated at times, despite the fact that Northwestern was a team that up to this point had only won 3 games in conference. And those 3 games were USC, Penn State, and Maryland. So this is not the murderer's row of teams that Northwestern have beaten up to this point.
And you played this game at Assembly Hall.
You went exactly where I was going.
That's scary. That's scary.
we have these moments on the reg. But it's true. Like that is the first thing you should think about, which is I think why we both went there. Is like, this is your house. This is where you're supposed to defend the turf. Like Assembly Hall is supposed to have mystique, but the mystique is simply the players playing better at home. And I mean, that's obviously the crowd helps when they're into it, and they were not last night, and I don't blame them. We'll come back to that in a second. But like, you can't let Northwestern come in and score basically almost 1.2 points per possession. You can't let them come in and bully you off your offensive glass. You can't let Northwestern come in and only turn the ball over on 15% of possessions. You've got to play mean. You've got to play hostile. And it just feels like, and we've talked about this now, I feel like 3 weeks in a row, whatever it is about Indiana that made them hard to play against earlier on in the season, and I'm just talking about like 3 weeks ago, it's like there's an intangible piece of them that has gone missing. And I don't really understand why. I couldn't really put into words exactly what it is. Maybe you can. But to watch them struggle like this against Northwestern, all the criticisms that people had about Archie Miller, all the criticisms people had about Mike Woodson and the way those teams played against Northwestern and other like lower level teams in the conference, it's like they were on display last night as well. It's like very little has changed despite the entire roster and the entire coaching staff changing.
Yeah, it's weird. There was all this turnover, and somehow we have the exact same result, which is like, isn't that the definition of insanity, is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result? But I don't know how they're trying the same thing over and over again when it is literally different people. But this is 6 straight wins for Northwestern now against Indiana. Indiana has not beat Northwestern at Assembly Hall since 2019, which was Trace Jackson Davis's freshman year. That is now 7 years ago. I mean, is it like they're scared? How do we keep getting the same result?
Yeah, well, and it's like, it's not even like a programmatic issue, because again,
No.
everything's changed over twice.
We have changed every variable possible, and the same result is happening.
I think it's probably, there's a lot of different factors that feed into it, and this is where it's tough when you talk about programs, because we talk about programs like they're people, and it's not a person. It's a collection of individuals, and you're under the same brand, but things change. But then the more things change, it's like the more things stay the same. I think in the Archie Miller era, it was a badly constructed team. I think in the Mike Woodson era, it was a poorly constructed team. And I think we're back to that again. And that's the one through line, is that, and as we watch this season kind of devolve, and I'm hoping that there's still a tournament bid down the line. We'll talk about those chances here in a little bit. But the roster deficiencies of this Indiana team continue to be laid bare. And the fact that you don't have a second reliable scorer, you don't have a reliable rebounder, you don't have lockdown defenders. You had another game where Indiana allowed way too many points per possession, especially to a team like Northwestern that just isn't great offensively. I mean, these are different versions of the same problems that we've seen Indiana have. And it's tough to judge Darren DeVries too harshly. If we didn't have the history of all of this going on, it's like, well, you could look at this and say, wow, this guy's not getting it done. But this is no better or worse than what we've seen the last 7 years. So I got to give him a couple more years, I think, or at least one more year, to be like, okay, that roster construction didn't work, so we got to figure something else out. There are good individual pieces on this roster. They're not playing well together right now. That is concerning, because they were playing better together earlier this season. I am at a loss to explain why they're not playing better down the stretch. They should have gotten better. We thought they were getting better. They did get better. And then it was like they stopped. And we got a little, you didn't get criticism. I got a little bit of criticism for being critical of the effort against Illinois and Purdue. People were like, well, those are really tough teams. Those are like 2 seed.
But
level.
Effort is something that, look, I went to a really weird school. Effort was a grade for me on my report cards. And they would be like,
what? So you did not go to Indiana for this.
Oh, sorry. This is for my high school, middle school, elementary school, International School of Indiana. not a weird school. It's a great school, but it was not conventional. And all throughout my entire career there, you would get your like number grade for like how you performed in class. But then alongside that was an effort grade. And my parents never cared what number grade I got for how well I did in the class, but they wanted me to always have excellent effort. And that was where their issue was. Like, you can be better at something than another subject, but as long as you're trying, like, that's all we care about. Effort isn't something that you have to have the most talent to give 100% in, right? Like, effort can happen whether or not you're the best.
Yeah.
So that's my issue.
I'm really glad I didn't go to the international school because I don't think I would still be there.
Yeah.
I would be repeating 11th grade over and over again.
I mean, you probably would have. I would have loved to see you try the Mandarin classes I took.
Yeah, and to be fair, I give a lot of effort now, but I had trouble when I
Yes.
was younger.
But like, that's the thing is,
Right.
we can be critical of effort because effort is something that you can control. You can't necessarily control shooting 100%, right? Like, there's going to be shot variance, but you can control giving your all every night.
Well, and this is where, when he's been asked, Darren DeVries has really deflected ideas that it's an effort issue and has focused more on execution. And, well, shots didn't go in, or we got to do a better job of putting guys in. And look, I don't think it's wise for coaches to go out and blast their team for lack of effort.
Yeah.
Mick Cronin does that. And
well, yeah, doesn't he like eject his own players?
Right, well, which I guess, to be fair, he apologized for later. But
this does not change the fact that he did it.
That's a fair point. But like Jerome Tang did that. He got fired. And
Yeah.
like so it's never good for the locker room if you publicly go out and blast your team for a lack of effort. But it is informative watching Darren DeVries during a game. And you don't always get the benefit of this on television, but when you watch the games in person, he is clearly real mad at many of his players for lack of effort, especially on the defensive end. I mean, he snaps at guys when they and he should, because you can see like player X or player Y not moving into the right position, not defending with the body at the right angle. I mean, there's a litany of things I've observed in watching him coach over the course of this season in person that don't really show up on television. But it has felt like those problems have increased. And again, rebounding is an effort thing. We've got people online who have talked through like, hey, we got to get some dogs with an AWG on this team. Well, that's an effort thing, and it really is. It's what's made, not to bring IU football into this, but I think
I was thinking about, though, right? Like, you don't see them missing tackles. Like, they fly around on the field, and it's not because they're 5 stars. It's because they were putting an effort on every single play, because who was going to be yelling at them if they weren't.
Well, it's the thing that Curt Cignetti talks about, the standard. And
yeah.
What is the standard? Well, the standard isn't just knowing what you're supposed to do and executing it, but it's giving maximal effort. It's like play through the whistle. And I do think that it's a tough comp right now because Cignetti, he knew what he had. He brought in a bunch of guys from James Madison. He's been able to select players that are on the roster, and those guys bought in. And you don't always get that as a coach. Darren DeVries obviously had to go and do a lot in the transfer portal really quickly and maybe not bring in an ideal group. I think Darren DeVries I think he had the best of intentions with many of the players on the roster. I think a few of them in particular have simply not lived up to what we thought they would be. But the problem is and I think I talked about this on Assembly Call. I talked about this with Scott when we podcasted over the weekend. The problem that DeVries has right now is that his selling point for this year's team, which was never going to be a team that was contending for a Big Ten title or, contended for a Sweet 16, was that this team's going to work real hard. And you're going to see that out on the floor. And losing at home to Northwestern after you've lost by 29 to Purdue is you couldn't have said anything worse at the beginning of the year than, hey, our effort is going to be the reason that you are excited and proud when you leave the building. Walking out of that building last night, pride was not an emotion that was emanating from the folks walking out of the stands.
I also want to bring up something that's interesting that Darren DeVries sent out an email before this game to
Yes.
students. I haven't been a student, obviously, in a few years, but has that happened anytime recently?
Other than Kurt Signetti
Ever?
doing it, I mean,
Yeah.
Signetti had the email before I think it was the Maryland game
Yeah,
last.
study later, right? Like, that's iconic.
And look, I think DeVries's instincts were correct because that was 2 bad games on the road. And that Purdue game in particular, I think that actually affected alumni more than it affected students. I mean, I was there. Students, at least in the lower level, filled in. And you can say, well, the balcony wasn't full. Well, the balcony hasn't been. It's never full for students unless it's Purdue or a really big game. It'll probably be full this weekend when they play Michigan State, at least on the student side. But I think that message probably needed to go to alums. There were a lot more open spaces on the alumni side in the main level than there were on the student side. So I think his instincts were correct. But the fact that you have to, as the Indiana men's basketball coach, email the students and essentially say, please come to the game. We really need you. And they kind of came and they got into it a little bit. But when you needed excitement at the end of the game, it was like, sitting in the waiting room at the doctor's office. It was not like you were just kind of waiting for the procedure to be over as opposed to being excited about rooting your team on to victory. I think it highlights how little emotional connection and attachment students in particular have with this team. And some of that is because football has given them so many things, but a lot of it is just like outside of that Purdue game, it just hasn't been that exciting of a home season. There hasn't been much to hang your hat on as a fan to say, wow, I'm excited to go watch IU basketball play.
I was reflecting on this because these students are in such a different position than I was as a student at IU. And it's crazy to think it's 2026 now. So 2016 was a decade ago. And when I was going into IU, there had been recent success of Indiana basketball. And you go into it my freshman year, like Romeo Langford's there. That's something to be excited about. There,
until he actually started playing, but that's another story.
Well, yeah, it was. I said to be excited about. I didn't say it panned out. But there was promise, and like Indiana basketball success didn't feel so archaic at that point because there had been recent runs, and now it's like, wait, I forget that these kids are coming into IU with. I mean, let's say they're 18, right? They were 8 the last time Indiana made a serious run, did anything. Like, it's crazy, I guess, because all this disappointment is turning into just apathy.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this happens.
Yeah.
And this, like, I've always said, there was a big debate about IU football. And people will be like, people need to come and support IU football. Fans need to be in the stands. Fans need to stay after halftime. And my argument was, that sounds great, but why? Like, what have you given the fans that would make them want to stay? And the answer for many years was nothing or very little. Or when you would give them something, they'd get excited. That Cincinnati game in 2021 is a great example.
Awesome.
Yeah. It was everybody, even with the Iowa loss, people were willing to overlook that. And it was a packed stadium, and Indiana came out and lost the game. And you do that with your fans often enough. Like you talked about students. A senior this year has seen one NCAA tournament appearance, and that was their freshman year. And that team got obliterated in the second round of the tournament in the second half of the second half by Miami. That was your reward for that season, was a home win against Purdue and that loss. Those are the two things you probably
I only saw one tournament appearance.
Right.
And it was a first 4 that turned into a blowout against St. Mary's.
And poor Grace had like one of the worst travel experiences
that
you could have with that.
But at least I wasn't the class of 2021 who had 4 years of Archie Miller and didn't see any of that.
Right.
So it's crazy. But then you think about those kids, that class of 2021, class of 22, like myself, people still showed up to those games. Those games were packed. The environment was always crazy because I think there was that recency to Indiana basketball success and the promise of getting back to that point. And now there have been so many years in limbo where it's like we're just kind of screwing around. Like, what are they going to get back to being relevant in the college basketball top team discussion? And now kids are like, Football's good.
Right. I mean, you go where the excitement is. Singers don't stay popular forever. They have to provide excitement. And when they stop providing excitement, people stop following along. Like,
Yeah.
why do people spend so much money on Taylor Swift shows? Because it delivers.
It does.
Are you going to spend the same amount of money on, random star? Like, people don't go to Katy Perry shows anymore.
No.
Right. So it doesn't just keep happening. And I know it might seem weird to like compare, but it's all entertainment. Like at the end of the day, yes, there's an emotional attachment with sports you don't get with other things. But the core reason why you would go and why you would be excited is not a whole lot different. And it's a problem. And I think we just stacked multiple classes of students who didn't get really any positive vibes or rewards for being fans, that not a lot of special moments. And that after a while, that has an impact well beyond just whatever happens in that given year. And I thought about this a lot last night, and I thought about it today as I was talking to some people. And it's like, you got to build all that back up from scratch, essentially. It is, I mean, Zach Osterman had an interesting piece in the Star today about how, at what point do you balance fan apathy or fan frustration with reality of like, well, there's got to be support because something's got to change at some point. It's like, after a while, it's incumbent on the institution to change things. And they did. They made a change last year. We can debate how that all went down, but there was so much goodwill after that 2016 Big Ten title, and it just kind of all feels like it's been squandered since then. And it's now going to be a long, slow process to build it back up. We had some questions from Twitter.
Yeah, let's answer some of those.
I wanted to get to those. But they fit right in with what we're talking about here. So 313 on tech said, what could possibly be happening at a molecular level within IU basketball that results in seasons like this, no matter who is coaching, playing, NIL, etc.? Feels like we spent 10 years turning every knob on the equalizer, but the sound coming out of the speakers has never changed. But why don't you start with this? I'd be curious to get your take.
I think at this point, it just feels like personnel issue. I can't think of the last time where I looked at a roster like up and down and I was like, that is a beautifully constructed roster. And obviously coaches changes things. And we haven't brought up Brian Carr yet, but this is where I think like that could be a positive step in the right direction. You think about how much these head coaches have to juggle. And obviously, like, I'm not cutting them a break because every head coach has to juggle this across college basketball. But like in the world of NIL, in the world of transfer portal, there's so much other stuff you have on your plate just on top of coaching. And being able to construct a good roster, being able to have these relationships, being able to scout talent accurately is something that I think has not gone over well in the last decade, I guess we're saying at this point.
Even back further than that, I would say.
Yeah. Yes. I'm optimistic because obviously the Pacers have done well. And if we have guys like Tyrese and TJ advocating for him, I think that's a really good person. Obviously someone that knows Indiana basketball and said he would only leave the NBA for Indiana. So to me, that's what feels like missing. I'm not saying Ryan Carr is going to change that because obviously there is the component of, is Darren DeVries fundamentally a great basketball coach, which I think we would see if he does get the correct pieces and being able to put them together. But it felt like through the Archie years and through the Woodson years, like there were those stars like Romeo and TJD, but like could not get them to come together on a team where they could fully maximize their talent.
I think that's a really insightful point, Grace. And look, I think people have rose-colored glasses about the Tom Crean era because to me, like, Crean had great recruiting classes early. It generates Christian Watford and Jordan Holes, and then you get Victor Oladipo and Will Sheehy and Cody Zeller, but then it stopped after a while. And even though that 2016 team came together, that they got kind of lucky because they get Max Bielfeld, they get Nick Zeisloft as a transfer, but when those guys were gone, when Yogi Ferrell graduates, it's like, oh yeah, this is not a well-constructed roster, even though it had some good individual pieces. James Blackman Jr. was still there the year after, and there were some other folks that, but what you end up with is like an ill-fitting team. And Archie Miller, as you said, never really figured out, and I think some of this was talent, overconfidence in one's ability to project what somebody will do when they get to the college level. Because I mean, there were that first class that he brought in, a lot of those guys never panned out. I mean, Demezy Anderson never panned out. Jake Forrester.
That's a name.
Yeah. Jake Forrester transferred after a very short period of time. Rob Finney was a big get, and
he was in my psych class.
There you go. It never took with him,
yes.
which was a real shame. I'm looking through the rest of the guys from that class. Race Thompson ended up having a decent career, but never, like, and injuries were kind of part of the problem there. The big Jerome Hunter, obviously that there was kind of he had injury issues that.
Yeah, he goes and does great at Xavier.
Well, when he could stay healthy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not, some things are bad luck, but then you think about like the pieces that Miller tried to add to the mix. It's like Evan Fitzner didn't work. Zach McRoberts didn't really contribute a lot, especially offensively. Devontae Green was already on the roster and was an interesting piece, but never a piece that fit well with anything. And that's the thing. It's like, it's not an indictment necessarily of any individual player, but it is how those players are brought together. Like Justin Smith was a guy who kind of on his own could do things, but never fit into whatever the team dynamic was. And I felt like that was the real problem with Mike Woodson as well, where, yeah, you had TJD and you could bring in a Miller Kopp and he could contribute, or you could bring in, like, Trey Galloway was able to contribute really well at times when he wasn't the focal point of the defense. So, but there were compositional issues with all of these teams. And I think there's a big compositional issue with this team. So yeah, to answer the question in summation, I think we've had coaches, and this goes back to Crean as well, and it was really a problem with Mike Davis also, who just haven't been able to fit the pieces together in a way that's competitive. I also think there's been a real lack of athleticism at Indiana. When I watch Indiana play and I compare them to the top teams in college basketball, when I'm comparing them to the Alabamas and the way, like Auburn the last few years, but not just SEC schools, like the Michigan States and the Dukes and the North Carolina, the teams that you think you're supposed to be running with, Indiana always looks like they're at an athleticism deficiency. And I don't understand why. Like, there's no fundamental reason through four coaches why that should be the case over and over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you put it really well there. And it doesn't make sense, right, how it keeps happening over and over again, but I think that's about as best as we could answer that question. It's a whole can of worms, though.
Yeah. We'll take two more. There were several questions in that vein, and I'm not trying to skip over anybody's, but like Balcony Seats ask about thoughts on the hiring of Brian Carr. You hit some of it a little bit. I do think having a dedicated personnel guy is important in this era. And I would argue at this point that it might be harder, weird as it sounds, to build a basketball roster that can compete at the highest level than it is to build a football roster.
Well, there's so many fewer people, right? You have to hit your percentage on your hit rate has to be so much higher.
Well, and even though you really only need like 2 or 3 guys at a really high level to succeed in basketball, you need complementary pieces that fit well with them. And you look at what like Illinois has done, where they've gone overseas and they've filled some of those spots. You look at what Michigan has done. I mean, Indiana needs someone who can not only understand talent and how it all fits together, but can go get those guys. I mean, one of the things last year that was frustrating about Indiana in the portal was they'd get close on a player and then you'd hear, oh, they got outbid. Someone paid more. And it's like, that might have worked last year, and the fans might have been like, oh, we're being responsible with our money. That's good. I think whether they missed the tournament or not, but especially if they missed the tournament, I think that excuse is out the window. Like, you're going to have to go pay a lot of money, but you can't be dumb about who you pay the money to, because like Kentucky this year is a great example of a program that felt like it was last year where Indiana is this year, and was like, screw it, we're going to go spend a bunch of money. And then they put together a roster that didn't fit well together. And that's the other piece. It's like, you've got to have those pieces fit. And so I have no reason to doubt that Ryan Carr knows what he's going to be doing. I'm glad he's already here. He was in the building last night. I walked by him. He already had a credential on. It's like, you've got to be like right now, like today, yesterday, you've got to be going out and figuring out who's going to be on the roster next year. I think that's the only way that this thing gets fixed. And then from there, it's like, and someone asked the question, Scott Shoemaker asked, do you think Cignetti's success will force the administration to be less patient with DeVries? For example, if they miss the tournament next year, I think he gets fired. I wouldn't go that far, maybe. But I don't think it's so much Cignetti's success as it is, what is the standard of Indiana basketball? Like, what are we doing this for? Indiana for years, decades, has talked about, this is Indiana, right? Like that. The idea is this is an elite program. They charge elite ticket prices. They market themselves as a blue blood. And yet, Grace, as you and I just talked about, when you've made 2 tournaments, one of them being a play-in game in the last decade, it's hard to make the blue blood argument. And something has to give. And as much as I like Darren DeVries, as much as I think people are in his corner, I think he's going to have to show significant progress. And I think having Ryan Carr doing what he does and feeding players in is about as good of an answer right now as there can be. But I think people are going to be expecting results, is what I would say.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think the Cignetti thing is going to definitely correlate to how DeVries is going to be graded on what he does and his output. But I do think that the standard of Indiana basketball is going to force them to have a shorter leash with them. So Archie got 4 years. Woodson, did he get 3, 4? 4?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we're looking at historically coaches that have not done well at Indiana, the max has been 4 years. At this point, I don't think he gets 4, just because of how the ship is so in the wrong direction now. And that's not his fault, but I think there's going to be less patience for that.
I mean, I do. It's funny because it's like, I've liked some things I've seen, and I like the general direction. And people that I talk to are very positive about DeVries. And it's sad that we're even having this conversation. I'm certainly not calling for him to be fired or anything. That's not the point of this conversation. But I do think a lot of people are in prove it mode when it comes to IU basketball, and they should be like that. That's again, it's like you can only preach patience so many times before people are like, why exactly are we being patient? What are we being patient for? Like, and this season is unfortunate because, man, it looked like, hey, they're going to make the tournament, and they still might. It's not out of the question, but that's it feels almost like a bait and switch, for fans who have been waiting for something to latch on to. And I think the apathy in the building right now is a real, real problem. And we knew that coming into the year. All that said, last question we'll field, then we'll take a quick break. Stephen Goldman asks, am I delusional for believing we're going to win on Sunday?
That's Michigan State. Yeah.
Michigan State.
That's at Michigan State.
Oh, it's here.
Oh, honestly, I wish it was at Michigan State because sometimes they weirdly win there.
Yeah, they played at Michigan State earlier this year.
Yeah, they didn't win that one, though.
It did not go well. They lost 81-60. So,
ooh, I'm really curious to see how people show up for that game. Because after Northwestern, I feel like everyone has every excuse to not care or not come, but people still will. What time is that game at?
It is at 3:45 on Sunday. So this is in the ideal tip-off window that you and I have discussed. We
love that tip-off window.
Not in the hungover tips, as you call them.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that's tough. I don't think you're delusional. I think you're optimistic.
I will say, prior to last night's game, the get-in price for Michigan State, Indiana on Sunday was about $125.
That's still that expensive?
Today, it's $68.
Oh.
So it's not as expensive as it was.
So a quad 3/2 loss cuts the ticket price in half.
I think we're learning some new mathematics here.
Yeah.
It's interesting stuff. One last thing I will say. So there's a great site called J Tom Analytics that has a really nice projection of tournament chances. And I'm going to pop this up on the screen. I think I sent this to you at one point.
Yeah, he currently does not have them in.
So right now, yeah, it's not looking ideal. And this matrix here, which looks a little bit confusing, is actually pretty simple. And it essentially says, like, if Indiana wins their 7 remaining games, they would have a 100% chance of getting in. And actually, if they win 21 games, they'd have a 98% chance of getting in. So Indiana, the problem is Indiana, they're going to have to do something special to get to 21 wins. Because at 20 wins, they only have a 41% estimated chance of making the tournament. And, if you look at the schedule that's coming up here, you've got Michigan State. So right now, just to everybody's on the same page, Indiana's 17-11 in their overall record, which means to win 21 games, you've got to win 4 games moving
There's
forward.
only 3 regular season games left.
Correct. So they'd have to win all 3 of those and then 1 in the Big Ten tournament. Well, it's hard after you lose at home to Northwestern to say, oh, well, the Minnesota game is, it's a game that they'll win. Given that Minnesota, they don't do a lot well, but they do play hard, and they did beat Michigan State at home a couple of weeks ago.
And didn't IU lose?
They did.
Minnesota?
They did, actually.
Way back when?
That was back at December 3rd. That was, believe it or not, Indiana had not won a Big Ten title in football as of the playing of that game.
There was so much excitement that we didn't know was coming on December 3rd.
I know. But that was a game. That was really, you could make an argument that game was kind of an early indicator of some problems for Indiana, because that was a game where at one point Indiana led that game 27-19, and they ended up losing that game 73-64. And Grace, you might want to sit down if you're not already for this, but Indiana, they gave up a 13-2 run in the second half en route to losing that game.
Isn't that exactly the same? Okay, cool.
Like if you go back and look at our chart from today.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's a 13-2 run. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's bad. So they've already lost to Minnesota. Minnesota's not going to be afraid of them. And then the other 2 games are at home against Michigan State, and then on the road at an Ohio State team who
is also on the bubble.
Someone tweeted this the other day, and I apologize because I wish I could cite them for it. Might have been Patrick. I'll give Patrick credit even if he didn't tweet it. Ohio State and Indiana are essentially indistinguishable programs from each other in basketball right now. They always feel like they're on the bubble, and it always feels like they're playing the last week of the season for a spot in the tournament, possibly. This happened last year, and Anthony Leal ends up hitting that shot at the end, and there's I'm not really excited about Indiana's season potentially coming down to having to beat Michigan State at home, beat Minnesota at home, and then turn around and go to Ohio State and then go win a game in the Big Ten tournament. Because that's essentially what the projections are saying right now. It's just a bad setup at this stage, given how Indiana's playing.
Going to Ohio State and playing what is essentially a bubble game feels like a precursor to Dayton. It's just an hour east.
Like, why not just stop in whatever town is between Columbus and Dayton? And just
wish I knew.
Yeah.
Wish I knew what that was.
We're gonna camp out at the Ramada there and wait.
Right. Yeah. It feels like, okay, even if they win this game, they're gonna have to come back in 2 weeks and play this exact same game just an hour west of here. I don't like that it's coming down to all of this.
I know. No, it sucks. It really does. And it was avoidable, I think. I mean, and again, it's like,
yeah, we were talking about like just a couple weeks ago where Lenardi had him as like a bye, like pretty firmly a bye, and that Wisconsin win had them pretty firmly in the tournament. And now Lenardi has them in the tournament as a last 4 in, but his only reasoning this morning was because you have to fill it with 68 teams somehow, and that's not a good reason.
Right. Yeah, it is like Mizzou won last night. That's
not
bad.
Good.
No, not good for Indiana. And so now you're talking about, and look, the point about how you've got to fill the field with 68 teams and that might keep Indiana in, it's really not a spot you want to be in, because you're competing with New Mexico and St. Mary's and Santa Clara and TCU. I mean, these are teams with horrific resumes, and Indiana might squeak in just because they've got that win against Purdue and the win on the road against UCLA. But they also might
quad one wins.
2 quad 1 wins, 4 wins against the quad 1 and quad 2 level teams. I mean, it is grim. You look at it, and the problem is, and the reason why there's been such a quick fall off, I had them as an 8 seed 2 weeks ago when I did my first bracket. It's wild that they've fallen off this far, but their big saving grace was that they had good metrics, and those metrics have taken a dive because, hey, you can't lose by 29 points to Purdue and keep good metrics. They lose to Northwestern. The other big thing about them was they don't have any bad losses. They don't have great wins.
Bad losses, yeah. No quad 3 losses.
Right. And now you got one of those. And so,
which obviously I think right now, like, that's kind of teetering. I thought it was a quad 3 loss, and I went to look at it and it's quad 2 as it stands, but like, that's fluid. You don't want to be in a situation where you're like, oh, I hope Northwestern does well to end the season, so it's only a quad 2 loss.
Yeah, because if you're gambling on a team to do well the rest of the way, Northwestern is not a team I would put money on. I mean, they could easily lose 6 or 7 spots in. And look, I will say, like, it's not the end of the world. Quad 2 versus quad 3; these are more sorting mechanisms, but it's more like, where are the wins if you're Indiana? That's what makes this Michigan State game so important. And to go back to the question from Steven, that's why I don't think you're crazy, because, and this is where, again, it's a non-negotiable win for Indiana at this point. Not just because you have to have it to get into the tournament, but because at this point, you owe the fans something after what's happened the last 3 games. You owe, you have to be able to come together as a program and say, we are going to go out and demonstrate that, yes, there's still life in this team, there's still life in this season, and we're going to go show everybody that what they think we are is not what we actually are. It's basically what they did when they played Purdue back on the 27th of January. They got to find a way to do that again. They got to find a way to reset things.
With that being said, though, with these 3 games left in the regular season, out of all the 3 of these, if they're going to lose one, this is probably the only acceptable one to lose.
It'd be the least damaging. Yes. At this point, I just wonder if they've run out of runway. Like, I don't know. Even though a loss at home to Michigan State won't be damaging resume wise, it's less that you can't take damage on your resume, and it's more that you have to have good things to put on your resume. That's a big difference. And like, Indiana is no longer in the defend what we've done strategy. It's in the we have to do something part of the strategy now. And God, you don't want to be there at the end of February. You really don't.
Not a conversation we want to be having, but here we are.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break. We'll talk about some happy things. There are a few happy things to talk about, but stick with us here on the other side of this break. This is Crimson Cast on the Back Home Network.
When the final buzzer sounds in Bloomington, the conversation starts here. The assembly call is IU basketball. Live post-game shows, smart midweek breakdowns, and no empty hot takes. Jared Morris, Coach Brian Tonsoni, Andy Bottoms, and Ryan Phillips dissect lineups, sets, and recruiting so you know what really happened and what it means for the Big Ten season, March, and beyond. Join the live chat on YouTube, then catch the podcast on Spotify and Apple. Just search Assembly Call and be part of Hoosier Nation's most trusted post-game tradition.
We're back.
We are. Let's talk about happy things.
Where do you want to start? We got a couple of good ones. I think the big news from yesterday.
Yeah. Season tickets sold out in, like, for football. Sorry. Need to preface that.
Football season tickets. Yes.
Football season tickets. How quickly did those sell out? Do you know?
I haven't gotten an exact time, although I did an interview on Indianapolis television today talking about it. I think I said
I know.
minutes.
I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah. Galen Clavio, season ticket holder, is how I will be presented there, I think. But no, the reality is it probably was hours. I said minutes, but you could turn minutes into hours. It's like when people say dozens. It's like, what the hell does that mean? It was quick. Like,
yeah.
They had said that this was the day that if you didn't have season tickets, you could get season tickets. And so some people did get in and get season tickets. And then by like 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, it was like, that's it. Wild. Grace, it's amazing. We keep talking about.
I feel like I should have gotten them. I know I can't even go, but I'm like, am I ever going to be able to get them? Have I missed the boat?
I don't know. That's why I buy extras, so that people
Yeah.
like you that can't buy tickets can come. But you should have gotten some if it was at all possible. Yes.
I know. I didn't even realize it was happening. By the
Right.
time it happened, I see screenshots. They're sold out, and I was like, I didn't even know I missed out on this. But it's awesome. I never thought this would be a day we would be talking about, and you and I actually talked about how even the student season tickets are changing now, where it's a bundle, which the bundle of basketball and football was only ever a thing previously because they wanted you to buy football if you were buying basketball. You could not buy basketball on its own. I was probably one of the very, very few people in 2021 that bought just football season tickets because I was covering the basketball team, and they're probably like, "What's wrong with this girl?" Um, but now you cannot just do that, and I think I bought them at the time for like $80 for the
Right.
entire season. So that will never happen ever again, and that's awesome.
Yeah. It is crazy how we got here. And look, the idea that you have to buy football tickets or have to buy basketball tickets in order to get football tickets just blows my mind. But it is where we are right now. And it's the exact inverse of the conversation that we had about the basketball program. Like, people want to be around this football program. They want to be at the games. I have been as proud as somebody who can be like just a professor and a season ticket holder. The students have showed up since the Maryland game. Their attendance has been amazing. They've been loud. They've turned that end of the stadium into a hostile environment. I sit on that end of the stadium, as you know, and it's cool to watch the energy coming out of there. I would hate to be on the other end of the stadium because I would be further away from the energy. But then, like, these weren't student season tickets that sold out. These were adult season tickets and
Real big kid people.
big kid season tickets. That's right. And that is, again, like, this is a thing that happens all the time at big football programs. And it probably should have happened last year, if we're being honest, because of how promising that season was. But again, it's like you get a bunch of people to jump on. I think they sold 50% more season tickets last year than they had the year before. So there had already been some ramp up. But you win a national title and people will come. And there will still be, I think, and I haven't seen an official word on this, but there will still be ways to get into the stadium. There'll be single game tickets that'll go on sale. I think they'll probably still have mini packs. This is an old sports marketing thing where you never want to just have season tickets. You want to have like an on-ramp for people who want to get season tickets so that when season tickets do come available, there's a waiting list. There's a waiting list right now for IU football season tickets. And now you got to keep building
It's a
that.
sentence that I never thought I would hear.
I want to talk to people who are on the wait list. And you should just, you know what? That's what you should do.
Join the wait list.
Just go ahead and get on the wait list and let's see what happens.
Okay. I'll do it for a social experiment, and I'll update everybody on Crimson Cast about how it's going.
I love this. This is going to be a lot of fun. But it's great. It really is. And it's a testament, obviously, to Curt Cignetti. It's a testament to the athletic department and what they've done to market things. And I'm really curious to see what they end up doing with the stadium experience, because it's going to be more full. I mean, as great as last season was, the first full game was the Illinois game, and that was 4 games into the season. And so I'd love to see the stadium full for North Texas. And I mean, full for Howard is probably a little bit of a bridge too far. I get that. That's even big football.
But that's a big Bison matchup.
It is. It's the first Bison versus Bison matchup we've ever had at IU.
Yeah, I don't think people are talking enough about that.
We just did. So we'll follow up on this.
Good.
But then, Western Kentucky, that'll be a game people should come. This is where you really start to get ramp up, and I'm fascinated to see how people deal with this. And we're now minting football fans, like we're making them, and I'm excited to see what the culture of Memorial Stadium ends up looking like as we journey through this upcoming season.
That's going to be so exciting. Another piece of good news we have is that the United States won not 1, but 2 gold medals in hockey against Canada. And I know this is not a hockey podcast in any way, shape, or form, but Galen and I were texting all throughout that game early Sunday morning, the men's gold medal game. And I was like, we have to talk about this because this was literally so exciting.
Yeah.
Living in St. Louis has turned me into a hockey person. And obviously, Galen, you have your background with hockey, but was that among one of the most fun hockey games you've ever watched?
It was tremendous, and what made it fun, other than the U.S. winning in overtime the way that they did, was how on edge it was for most of the game. I mean, for all the people that have talked about how Canada dominated the game, they did. I mean, that's not people making
So you
things
just have
up.
to look at shots on goal, and you're like, yeah, they dominated the game.
Yeah, I mean, their expected goals scored was like almost 6, like that, and you get that. And this is one of the things I love about hockey. It's actually something that I love about soccer too. That the both sports have a similar vibe, where in sports where it's hard to score, anyway, games like this where you have a goaltender making an otherworldly effort to try to keep the other team from scoring becomes a story in and of itself. It's not a whole lot different than a no-hitter in baseball. But, for the United States, this is such a huge moment, and that's the other thing that made it exciting for me. And as someone, like you said, I mean, I broadcasted hockey for a couple of years in the minor leagues, but I did Double-A hockey in Memphis, and that was a Maple Leafs affiliate. And it was interesting because, most of the guys on that team were Canadian. There were some guys from the American Northeast, and even then, and that was back in 2000, early 2000s. I don't know exactly the year it was, but it was like learning about the dynamic there and at the time kind of burgeoning rivalry in terms of international competition between the U.S. and Canada, because Canada, it's their sport. Like they've invented the sport. There's so much national pride that's invested in it. And for the U.S. to win their first gold medal since 1980 in that kind of a game, the way that it went and the way that, the way it ended in 3-on-3, a competition that Canada had a huge advantage in just because of how many skill players they
Although
had.
they won't tell you, they won't admit that.
Right. But it's okay. Like the way I've always looked at it is I can give Canada credit for being a great team, but give US credit for winning when it mattered. And that's how we judge success in sport. And I've always been drawn to those sorts of games and those sorts of experiences. And I think I texted you this at one point, but it's like there's the vibes you get off of those sorts of games are what makes sports special in so many ways when you have a culminating game and when you get a situation where it has to go exactly right for one team to do what they need to do in order to win, and it does. That to me is what I remember from that game, and that's what I'll always remember from that game.
Such a fun game where you feel like you're going to throw up for the entire third period and overtime period. It's awesome, but that's why I love it, and I love hockey. And I think anytime Connor McDavid was on a rush, I died a little bit.
Scary,
but somehow Connor Hellebuck stopped every single shot after that one Cale Makar shot. So I don't know. It's a game I'll think about for a long time. Also, just the way that they honored the Gaudreaus after the game was so cool. Everything about it was so cool. I just think the Olympics in Milan were awesome. And it was cool because of the time difference that there was between Italy and here. It felt like the last few Winter Olympics, we've been kind of detached just because it's been so far on the other side of the world where we haven't been able to watch these things live. And being able to wake up and watch curling live and watch these hockey games live made us feel so much more in it. So it was an awesome last 3 weeks of being able to watch the US compete.
I agree. No, and I'm sad they're over. I didn't get a chance to watch as much of them as I would have liked to because of work. I think you had a similar situation, but it was the time difference is great. I think Premier League gets a lot of credit for normalizing that 5-6 hour time difference between Europe and the US. And the fact you can wake up, as we did Sunday morning, and watch a gold medal hockey game at 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. in your case is nice. Like, I love that. It's a great way to start the day. Like, the day can only be, like, it can never be as good as it was when you started the day.
Yeah, and you're like, wait, I have to keep going about my day now? I think I did actually take a nap.
You
which
were
is pathetic of me.
Oh.
I know. I'm like, I wake up at 7 a.m. for the first time in how long, and I have to take a nap. But it's okay.
Oh, man. Well, it was a great time, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. And it's, it sets the stage for the next time these teams play each other, which is going to be, I think, in Utah. No, in France. Sorry, in France in 4 years. So
You're thinking of LA.
I am. Yes.
Which will also be awesome. But then we've got the World Cup here this summer. A whole lot of exciting things to look forward to.
I know. Well, and one other thing to look forward to back on the IU front real quick, the draft. As Indiana with 9 people in the combine.
That is a program record. They have the 8th most people there out of all the other schools. So
nuts. I mean, again,
9. Did you ever think that we would have 9 people at the combine?
No. And
to be honest, there should be more too.
There should be. Yeah, Kalon Black should be there. There's a couple other guys who I think I could make a good argument for. Yeah, Kamara should be there. If you look at the guys. Rhett Lewis and I had a big conversation about this on Big Red Carpet, which people should go check out. Omar Cooper, getting first round grades now. People talking about
every time I'm opening my feed, it's like everyone loves Omar Cooper, and I'm like, I mean, I do too.
Right. But I feel like I was on Omar Cooper Island very early. And so this is affirming to me. I was like, I loved that guy when he was a junior. Like that guy he made plays as a sophomore. It's cool. I think I said this with Red. I love the transfers. I mean, Aiden Fisher, Fernando Mendoza, like all the guys that came in, but Cooper was here his whole career. And when I don't get as tied up in we want to watch guys develop from when they were freshmen all the way through. But that is a case where it's like I really enjoyed watching Omar Cooper develop as the years went on.
And him being an indie kid too, it's like
like Lawrence North, right?
Yeah. And getting to come and do the combine in his hometown and get all this, I can't imagine how special that is for him.
So a quick question for you. So Indiana is almost certainly now going to have the first pick in the draft, right?
Yes.
So has that ever happened before, first of all?
I would say no, but you asking concerns me.
So it actually has.
When did that happen?
Well, that's the funny thing. It is a long time ago when it occurred. It actually happened back in 1938. Indiana had the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. Now, I'm
not going to count that.
You're not going to count that? I mean, it counts for something. LSU would count it.
You know what? 1938 predates the Lombardi Trophy.
I mean, it predates World War II.
That's also a good point.
Yeah.
Well, that might have been is that not? Oh yeah, it predates World War II by a year.
Yeah. Well, it predates the U.S.'s entry into World War II by a couple of years. Yeah, but no, Corbett Davis.
I'm being so disrespectful to Corbett Davis. I apologize.
Was drafted by the Cleveland Rams with the number 1 overall pick in the 1938 draft. A great draft for Indiana. Four players picked in that draft.
I'm glad.
But Fernando Mendoza is en route to being Indiana's first round draft pick since, I want to make sure I get this right. I knew it, but I just want to make sure I didn't miss anybody by accident. But Thomas Lewis in 1994, wide receiver, was drafted with the 24th pick in the first round by the New York Giants. And so it's been that long. And Indiana could have 2 first-round draft picks, maybe 3. We'll see.
Yeah.
D'Angelo Pons, I'm not writing him off as a first-round pick, but it's exciting that all these guys are at the combine.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So
I'm excited to hear what they have to say. Obviously, like doing drills and stuff matters more for certain guys, but Fernando's not going to throw. I'm sure everything he says is going to be all over my feed, and he's going to be a gem of a soundbite because he always is. I think Aiden Fisher already talked.
Yes.
So I need to go listen to that. But it's going to be exciting to see all these guys out there. And I'm sure being back in Lucas Oil Stadium is going to bring back some awesome memories for them all.
It should. That just them being back in Lucas Oil Stadium is bringing back great memories for me.
Yeah. And it had nothing to do with us.
Nothing at all.
We had no part in it, but I'm very happy.
But no, it should be good. And I think the big last question is, will Max Mendoza be at the combine?
If he didn't get a credential, I'm going to be pissed.
We might need to write a letter.
Because could you imagine? He like goes up there and he's asking his question to Fernando like he doesn't even know him.
Right.
He's so impartial. Max Mendoza, unbiased journalist.
I also want to hear Max Mendoza reviewing Harry and Izzy's.
Oh, I would like to see him try the shrimp cocktail for sure.
He might be a little young for that. I don't want to scare him. I mean, what's your take on the shrimp cocktail? Like, how do you approach it?
I don't like spicy food.
Right, exactly. So I'm
okay. I won't force that on Max Mendoza.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll keep our fingers crossed he got credentialed. But
yes.
Anyway, well, any final thoughts?
No, I think this has been an awesome conversation. Hopefully you guys got the IU basketball therapy you needed. Glad we could toss in some fun things. Do you have any thoughts?
None whatsoever. I think we covered literally
all the thoughts have left your brain. Well,
at this point, yes, they have.
Well, this has been Crimson Cast for Galen Clavio. I'm Grace Ybarra. Thank you guys for joining us, and stay never daunted.
So long, everybody.